Good morning, scrappy friends. I wanted to come on and do something a little bit different. It's still related to Christmas in July, but it's a shortcut for stamping sentiments. If you haven't ever used a stamping jig, let me tell you, they are awesome. So all I did with these two little guides is I cut my original banners using these little cat scrappiness banners. I lined them up on this paper, ran them through my Cuttlebug, and backed them with some painter's tape. So this is just a row of painter's tape and a row of painter's tape. And then I took the same piece of scrap and then glued it on the top, or I guess on the back. So basically what this does is it creates a space for you to line up your little strips. So you can die cut a whole bunch of these at once and then line up your little strips in this little stamping guide so that you can use a stamping platform and do a whole bunch of sentiments at once. I also made one for the cat scrappiness banners, same idea. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, and then I'm thinking I might actually make another little stamp jig for circle sentiments. So I will put you on fast forward while I kind of show you how this works. I say this later on in the video, but I intend on making myself some little jigs like this for a couple of different shapes. I've got some, they're like squares and rectangles, but they've got curvy edges, and they tend to be some of the different shapes that I use when I'm doing like birthday cards or Christmas cards. Honestly, I tend to make mostly Christmas cards, but if you're a card maker, use these with whatever sentiments you like. It just happens that I'm kind of in craft show mode right now, and I'm trying to get ahead of all of the different projects that I'd like to have ready for selling at a craft show. But if you're a card maker, even if you enjoy doing project life, any kind of crafting that you do where you tend to use your stamps, a jig can be a very handy little tool. So if you're not into making cards, don't think that you can't make this a useful little tool. And of course, it costs you nothing. So you can use your scraps and a little bit of painter's tape or masking tape. You could even use washi tape for this. Washi tape would probably be the best. It would just mean that you might have to replace your jig more often, because I don't know if the washi tape would hold up to a lot of different use. But this is also a really good way to organize your stamps. And a lot of the stamps there that you see me using are from Citrus Twist kits, and they're intended for December Daily and Project Life. So the little words are quite small, and they can be very fussy and fiddly. You're going to watch me fiddle with them quite a few times, I'm sure. But you can also mix the different type styles when you do this and not worry about your stamps and your paper moving all over the place. Making a jig is a great way to use up not fantastic colored paper. This is a really, I don't think you can read well on camera, but this is a really neon-y red. It's not my favorite, so I'm going to use this to create my jig, but you could easily use whatever scrap you have, whatever size you have. I grabbed my nesting circle dies. These ones are Temu circles, but you could easily use stitch dies, whatever you've got. If you don't have dies, you could also just use some punches and then just punch the shapes out of the cardstock, and I'll show you how to create the jig part here in a minute. I'm going to run these circles through on this little jig, and I may actually have more space than I need for these little guys. I may actually use a smaller scrap for this. Something I don't think I mentioned in the video is these little circles also correspond to the different circle punch styles I have. So there we go. My circles are cut. And of course, these little circles can be used on another project, so that's not waste either. And then the way you create the jig is simply with some tape. I don't have any painter's tape with me right now, so all I'm going to do is use this masking tape, and I'm just going to put it on my clothing to take some of the tack down. And then you put it so that the sticky side is facing the table. I'm going to keep doing that, and I'll be right back. Something else you could use if you don't have cardstock paper for this would be chipboard or cereal boxes. They would be great for a jig. Okay, so that is the first part of my jig done. The second part comes when you put the back on it, because right now it's very flimsy. So all I'm going to do is glue this and create my jig. So I will do that, and I will be right back. I think this is one of the cases of the thicker the paper, the better, as long as it doesn't interfere with how your stamp platform functions. I think the two little jigs that I showed you at the beginning of the video, the one with the stitched rectangles and the little stitched banners, are actually made out of a thicker cardstock than this. This is just Michael's, I think it's 65-pound weight cardstock, so it's nothing crazy. And I found this jig was a little bit flimsy as I used it, so thicker paper, better jig. Okay, my jig is ready. It's a little sticky still, so I'm just gonna keep putting a little bit of my hands and my clothes on it, just so when I go to take the little pieces off, I don't rip them. Okay, so now I need some little white circles, so I will die cut those from my scraps. For those of you that are lazy crafters like me, this little tool has been a very easy way for me to get a lot of product in a short amount of time. I think I say it later, I may even have said it earlier in the video, but I like to go and do all one kind of crafting at a time, and this is a great use for that. All right, so I'm just gonna see if I can find some little stamps that will fit. I didn't get all my circle sizes, but that's okay. There. I'm just going to grab some little stamps, and I will be right back. I'm using mostly VersaFine Onyx Black ink here. It tends to be the color that I use for most of my stamping, no matter what I'm stamping. There we go. So I think I will probably make a jig using a couple of the different shapes and sizes of labels and different things that I typically use when I'm putting together my Christmas cards, and just have them on hand. I'll probably keep them with my stamping platform. I've seen other people that keep them with the dies, but I tend to kind of do things, as I've said in many different videos. Wow, that's super sticky. I tend to do things in batch mode, and so for me, doing my sentiments this way just makes more sense. If this isn't the way you craft, then you may not even need a jig, but I enjoy kind of doing all one process at a time. It means I don't have to get out all of my different supplies at once. I can just kind of pick and choose what I want to do on any given day and then just kind of go with that. So there we go. Something very different for my channel. But if you've got dies, make your life simple and create yourself a jig so that when you're stamping, you can actually make the most of your crafty time. As always, thanks for coming to hang out with me, and I will see you next video. Bye for now.